Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to go to my review of AEW's Dynamite. Starting off tonight, we have Will Ospreay taking on Brian Cage. I thought it was a good match. Before the match actually really got started, though, we had a video package shown on the Titantron of Kenny Omega being attacked by most likely the Don Callis family backstage. The match itself was a back-and-forth matchup between Ospreay and Cage, with Ospreay keeping the pace of the match. Cage then hits a suplex to the outside on Ospreay. Lance Archer then attacks Ospreay with the referee being distracted. Ospreay then gets up, hits a springboard forearm, taking out Brian Cage. Cage then gets up, hits a devastating Liger bomb on Will Ospreay for a near fall. But Ospreay gets up, hits a Styles Clash in the middle of the ring on Cage, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Will Ospreay. After the match, Archer then attacks Ospreay. Omega then comes out to the ring to save Will Ospreay, but both Ospreay and Omega are attacked by Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Jeff Jarrett taking on Claudio Castagnoli. Now, the stipulation of this match is if Jeff Jarrett does successfully beat Claudio Castagnoli, then Jeff Jarrett will ultimately get his title shot against Jon Moxley for the AEW World title. Now, the match itself, I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Jarrett and Claudio Castagnoli, with Claudio keeping the pace of the match. Jarrett then applies a figure 4 leg lock on Claudio in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Jarrett and Claudio then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Claudio hitting a giant swing on Jarrett. Claudio then applies a sharpshooter on Jarrett in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Jarrett then applies a sharpshooter of his own on Claudio, but that hold gets broken as well. Moxley then gets involved by coming out to the ring, hitting a paradigm shift on Jarrett. Referee doesn't see it. Then Claudio then hits 2 neutralizers on Jeff Jarrett, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Claudio Castagnoli. After the match, Jarrett's laid out in the ring, but MJF's music hits. He comes out to the ring to confront Jeff Jarrett, but MJF quickly attacks Jarrett in the middle of the ring. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's AR Fox taking on Ricochet. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Fox and Ricochet, with Ricochet keeping the pace of the match. Ricochet then hits a standing moonsault on AR Fox in the middle of the ring. Fox then gets up, hits a step-up enziguri, taking out Ricochet. Fox then hits a 450 off the top rope on Ricochet for a near fall, but Ricochet hits the finish on AR Fox, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Ricochet. After the match, Swerve's music hits. Ricochet is looking all around, but he is quickly attacked by Swerve Strickland. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Jay White taking on Wheeler Yuta. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Jay White and Yuta, with Jay keeping the pace of the match. Jay then hits a Blade Runner on Wheeler Yuta, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jay White. After the match, Jay then grabs Wheeler Yuta, hits another Blade Runner on Wheeler Yuta in the middle of the ring. The Death Riders are here, but Claudio then attacks Jay. FTR and Cope come out to the ring. FTR then grab a microphone and say there will be FTR versus the Death Riders on Collision in a Mid-South street fight. Definitely looking forward to that matchup. Moving on from that, we have a Mariah May segment. Mariah May comes out to the stage. She is greeted by Renee. May says that Toni Storm is not real. And then Mariah May mocks Toni Storm and pretty much hypes up the matchup that she's going to have with Toni Storm at Grand Slam in Australia. Moving on from that, we have a video package that was played. In the video package, it looks like we're going to have the return of the Gun Club. The Gun Club has been off AEW television for quite a while, dealing with some injuries. So it looks like they're on their way back to AEW and the tag team division. Moving on from that, we go into the main event of AEW Dynamite. It is Yuka Sakazaki taking on Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Sakazaki and Moné, with Moné keeping the pace of the match. Moné then hits a Meteora, taking out Sakazaki. Moné then hits a backstabber as well. Yuka then gets up, hits a German suplex on Moné, but Moné hits her signature moneymaker on Yuka Sakazaki, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still TBS champion, is Mercedes Moné. Hats off to Mercedes Moné for getting the win in this matchup. Couple things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite. Now, before I even get started, man, I'm not going to try to sit here like I have been for the past couple weeks and sound like a broken record, because to be honest with you, it's getting old. Are there still issues with AEW? Oh, hell yeah, there is. But there was a couple things that I looked at as far as Dynamite last night that I didn't entirely hate. I didn't hate the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that I hated it. The one thing that I will say, though, when it pertains to Kenny Omega, number one, I think the Omega teaming up with Will Ospreay taking on Takeshita and Fletcher at Grand Slam in Australia, I think it's going to be a great match. I think it's going to be an absolute banger of a match. My issue with Omega is the same thing I said about Omega last couple weeks. You know, when Omega came back officially back to AEW, coming back off a lengthy injury, dealing with diverticulitis, you know, my initial thought process for Kenny Omega was that he was going to come back into the fold of AEW and go after the Elite. And why you may ask that is because if you guys remember distinctly, when we saw Kenny Omega on AEW television before he had to get surgery for diverticulitis, this guy was beat the hell up from the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. You know, and Omega was on a stretcher, and they were beating the shit out of him while he was on that stretcher. So, you know, Omega got carted off, and he was off the scene for many, many months dealing with diverticulitis. So when Omega came back into the fold full-time with AEW, my first initial thought process was, okay, well, this guy is going to go back. He's going to come back to AEW, and he's going to beat the shit out of the Elite. That didn't happen. That's not happening at all. Now we have Kenny Omega going after the Don Callis family, which, quite frankly, doesn't make any sense considering the fact that Omega had no ties to Don Callis for, 2.5 years? Something like that. So I don't know why we're, going backwards with Kenny Omega. It just makes no sense. That was one of my biggest negatives, I think, with Kenny Omega. On top of the fact that I feel like the guy just doesn't want to be back in AEW. And quite frankly, if that's the case, I don't blame him. Just with how AEW has been going and the direction that AEW is possibly going down, it's just not really a good look right now for AEW. The other negative I would say is Mercedes Moné. And it really doesn't have anything really to do with Mercedes Moné. It's the match itself. I don't know much personally about Yuka Sakazaki. What I do know about Sakazaki is obviously she's had a lot of matches working with Stardom, and she's had a lot of matches over in Japan. And, and that's great. I'm not saying she doesn't have any talent. No, she's got talent. The issue that I have with Yuka is the fact that she hasn't really been on AEW television, I believe, until last year's Grand Slam in September. Now, I know she was on Collision, but she has not been on Dynamite until around, I think, Grand Slam in September of last year. So, I feel like there's nobody else left for Moné at this point. There's no Camille. We haven't seen Rio. We haven't seen Shida. We haven't seen Nyla Rose. We had, Thunder Rosa. They have Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie. I haven't really seen them go up against Moné. There's also Statlander. There's Willow Nightingale. Julia Hart. Sky Blue, whenever she decides to return back from injury. And hopefully she does come back into the fold. I know Kira Hogan was also injured. She's also on her way back. Jamie Hayter. I mean, the list goes on. Serena Deeb. So I feel like out of all the people that they've had on AEW television as of late, we're going to pick Yuka Sakazaki to go up against Mercedes Moné, which I don't get that. I don't understand that. She hasn't really been showcased that much on Collision nor Dynamite, but then here she is getting a title opportunity against Moné, last night on Dynamite. I just didn't understand it, man, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of people that I talked to that were actually legitimately pissed off that Yuka got an opportunity and not everybody else on the current roster right now, which I can't necessarily say that I don't blame him, to be honest with you, because like I said, there's not many times that we've seen Yuka on Dynamite or Collision as of late. And then we had the Death Riders, man, and to me, this was the hottest take that I think I have for AEW, and especially Dynamite last night. The Death Riders are ultimately going to be the death of AEW if this shit keeps going the way it's going. And there's a lot of people out there that are huge fans of the Death Riders and Jon Moxley, and look, man, I get it. I remember when Jon Moxley debuted. It was great. It was a great moment, and he's been, at times, a great champion for AEW. But this Death Rider shit, man, it's not working. I mean, when that music hits for the Death Riders, man, it literally sounds like the theme of the death of AEW. That's what it sounds like. It's just so fucking brutal. This faction here has no traction at all. There's no sense of direction of where the hell this shit's going. There's not a when, where, and a why. We have no idea what the fuck is going on with the Death Riders. And what pisses me off with, the Death Riders and just AEW in general, man, they don't acknowledge the fact that this shit does not work. So much so that it's been a couple times now, recently, that Jon Moxley has publicly said that he wants the fans to kind of sit back and watch and let it marinate and give it time to rest and see where this goes. No offense, man, this shit has been going on for like 6 fucking months, and it's going nowhere. Like, how long do you really want this shit to play out? And my thing is, and I asked myself that last night after I watched Dynamite, like, are they really going to drag this shit out with this Death Rider shit all the way out until July? That's going to be fucking insane, to be honest with you, if they drag this out until All In. In July? That's, I mean, Christ, man, that's ridiculous. That's like, what, 4 or 5 months away? Something like that, 6 months or something like that. I mean, that's a while. Considering that this has already been going on for so long now, I mean, I don't see where the hell this shit's going. To be honest with you, we haven't even seen the fucking AEW title since Jon Moxley's had it. He's got it stashed away in a fucking briefcase that Marina Shafir's been walking around with, in the briefcase that's pretty much handcuffed to her. We haven't seen that fucking title. So again, man, it's just, there's a lot of loopholes that are ultimately killing this fucking show. I can't be more honest with you guys than that. And it's a problem. It's a huge problem. You know, and I mentioned this now multiple weeks, multiple months now. It seems like that AEW and Tony Khan took their foot off the gas pedal once they signed that new TV deal with Time Warner and Warner Media. They don't give a shit no more, man. They made their fucking money. They wanted to make sure that AEW was profitable enough to grant them another TV contract worth $500 million. And now that they got their money, specifically Tony Khan, he doesn't give a shit anymore. This whole mission statement about this company was, oh, we're all for the fans. That whole ship has fucking sailed. He don't give 2 shits about the fans no more. He just don't. The guy wants to collect the money, and that's it. And it's a fucking problem. It is. I mean, if you look at all the shit that's going on with AEW besides what's going on in the ring, I mean, bro, it's fucking ridiculous, man. It is. You look at the Rey Fenix situation. You look at Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Miro, now Britt Baker. Tony Khan is a bitter little man, and he don't give a shit who he pisses off. And it's ultimately crippling his company. I said this from the beginning, especially last year, that this guy that's running this company, I genuinely believe, is fucking delusional, to be honest with you. And I understand, if you're a person out there that, you know, hey, you want to believe in your own bullshit, hey, by all means. But fucking back it up. You know what I mean? Like, this guy can't even do that. If you're going to be petty, then back it up. Yeah, I'm petty. No, we're seeing it first and foremost and firsthand, watching the shit that's been going on for the past couple of years with AEW. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry, but AEW is well behind the 8 ball right now compared to WWE. WWE is miles ahead right now of before what they're doing with AEW. Absolutely. They just signed an exclusive contract to work with TNA. And they did that because they didn't want TNA to sign with and work with AEW. Smart business move. And honestly, it works out for both parties because, no offense, at the current moment, AEW is a fucking sinking ship and it's going down fast. There's no sense of direction, man. Where this company's not going to fucking play. It's like, there's no, where are we going? That's the biggest question I have with this company. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Who's on the writing team for this fucking show? Is it just Tony Khan? Like, I don't get it. And I'll tell you what else pisses me off. And to be honest with you, you have 2 of the biggest fucking stars in this company. 3. I'm going to mention 3 of the biggest stars in this company. And look at what they're fucking doing now. Compared to what they were doing last year and the year before that. And those names are Swerve Strickland, Adam Page, and MJF. Tell me what they're doing right now that's so goddamn important that I'm intrigued with right now. You got Swerve going up against Ricochet. Okay. Should be a good match. What the hell is Adam Page doing? Adam Page ain't doing shit. He ain't doing nothing. This guy had banger matches after banger matches with Swerve Strickland. Swerve was former AEW World Champion. Had a great run. I thought it was a great run. And now he's hardly doing shit. You look at Adam Page, former AEW World Champion in himself, had banger matches with Swerve Strickland, some of the best AEW matches of all time. That guy ain't doing shit. He's not doing anything. And then you look at someone like MJF, an AEW prodigy, if you will, one of the originals. Made himself a household name with AEW. One of the, if not the greatest AEW champion of all time so far. What is he doing in 2025? Oh, that's right. They're going to feud him with someone who's 57 years old in the name of Jeff Jarrett. That's what we're doing with MJF. You're one of your biggest stars in the company. That's what we're doing. We're trying to create a story if we can, the best way that they know how to do, and have a segment here between MJF and Jeff Jarrett. That's what we're doing now in 2025. That's what I'm saying, bro. Like I don't know. And I've asked myself this question so many fucking times, and I still don't know the answer. I would love to know what the fuck happened to AEW and Tony Khan. Where was the switch? Where was the switch from, okay, we're going to make, compelling television, we're going to make great storylines and great matches to go along with these storylines, to hitting that switch to, like, you know what, we're just going to put on decent matches for the fans and to hell with everybody else. I want to know what triggered that occurrence to happen. That's what I want to know. What triggered Tony Khan to say, you know what, yeah, the hell with him? Was it Cody Rhodes? Was it CM Punk leaving and ultimately getting fired from the company because they had no fucking choice? And I mentioned this like a week or two ago. I think CM Punk ultimately was the Achilles heel for AEW. And I think that Tony Khan and AEW put all their eggs in the basket of CM Punk, because I genuinely believe that Tony Khan thought that when they brought CM Punk in, that was Tony Khan and AEW's golden goose, and they were going to, with CM Punk and that entire company, they were going to try to take down everything WWE built. It's a lot of pressure for one person to accomplish. I don't give a shit who you are. And to be honest with you, towards the end, he already looked miserable, bro. He looked like he didn't want to even fucking be there. This company is in dire needs at this point. I can't stress that enough. Shit needs to change, man. And I've said it now for the past few weeks. Watch the product, man, and you'll know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. It's not like this company doesn't have the talent. You got some of the best talent on this planet. All we're asking for with these said talents, to have some kind of compelling storylines to actually get the fans invested in these men or women's matches. To get the fans, I can't wait to see what happens next week. Give me something. We're not getting shit, man. Christ, we're not. It's so bad that AEW is not even kicking off with a theme song anymore. They're just going right to the fucking match now. You know what I mean? Where's the production in that? That's what I'm saying, bro. It's something has to change. And I'm not sitting here, I'm not going to be one of those guys, you're always comparing them to WWE. No, what I'm comparing is the fact that this company at one time was red hot, and they could do no wrong, and making compelling storylines. The difference between the two is that WWE has done that and are still doing that now, and is progressively getting better. Hence the reason why they have sold out arenas. People from around the world tune in. The pay-per-views are always, or the PLEs are always pretty much sold out. Is because the fans are legitimately invested in the product, because the storylines that you are portraying on your week in and week out television, whether it be Raw and or SmackDown. We're not getting that shit on fucking Dynamite or Collision. We're not. The shit on Dynamite doesn't even really fucking marinate into Collision. You got FTR announcing the matchup between the Death Riders on Collision. Okay, where's the story? They attack, the Rock and Roll Express. Okay, fine. But here's my question with that. What the hell does the Rock and Roll Express have anything to do with what AEW is doing? With what? Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson? What do those guys have to do right now currently with AEW? As far as I was concerned, the Rock and Roll Express were tied up to Billy Corgan's NWA promotion. So why are they on AEW television? That's my question. And what the fuck does the Rock and Roll Express have anything to do between the Death Riders and FTR? Why they even bring that in? To me, it makes no sense. It just doesn't. And if Jon Moxley and the Death Riders want change, what you're doing right now ultimately with that change is killing the brand. And killing AEW, because fans have left in droves, and there's fans out there now that are still fans of this product that says AEW sucks. The show fucking sucks. Week in and week out, it seems like they're getting their ass kicked in the ratings. Ticket sales are in the toilets. Merchandise sales are in the toilet. They can't even sell out small arenas or venues for even a Dynamite or Collision show. That's a proven fact. And like I mentioned earlier with Grand Slam, there was no goddamn way in hell with a 50,000 seat stadium that wasn't going to be a pay-per-view. The reason why it's not now is because they couldn't even sell anywhere near close to 50,000 tickets for that damn stadium. And two, they were going to be losing money. So they had to go to a smaller arena. That can possibly, maybe, if they're lucky, to sell out. I even heard through the grapevine that there was people basically giving tickets away for this event. And like I said earlier, man, there's only 2 matches that are really technically booked for this goddamn card for Grand Slam. It's Omega teaming up with Ospreay, taking on Fletcher and Takeshita. And then we have Mariah May defending the AEW Women's Championship against Timeless Toni Storm. That's the only thing that I know of that's been announced for this show. Other than that, we haven't got shit. So to me, it's a fucking problem. Not counting the fact that the show for Grand Slam is going to be on a 21-hour tape delay, and for us fans over here to watch it live, it's not going to be until about 2:30 in the morning. I can tell you all flat out, man, there ain't no way in hell that I'm going to be up at 2:30 in the morning to watch Dynamite. Ain't no shot. Ain't no fucking way. No. So what happened is they ultimately pinched themselves and caught themselves in a bind because this event with Grand Slam is turning into a fucking disaster. Not counting the fact that they also booked this event on the same weekend of the NBA All-Star Weekend, which is on TBS and TNT and HBO Max. So it kind of really booted AEW off their time slot. Not counting the fact that they're also going to be in Australia for Grand Slam. But still, 2:30 in the morning with a 21-hour tape delay is going to be absolutely fucking ridiculous. Absolutely. You know, at the end of the day, man, this company, it needs a change. And I can't stress that. I'm not the only podcaster out here saying the same shit. I mean, I've listened to them all. I've heard them all. And they're all saying the same shit. Everybody's at the gate, beating on the gate, wanting change. And we're not getting it. Because fans and podcasters that are doing this are legitimately done with the bullshit with AEW. Clearly, they're not going to acknowledge what's wrong with the company. And the people that work there are not going to say anything because they're getting a check. Probably a substantial check for them to stay with AEW. And they're not going to even ask the boss, hey, what's going on? Or can I, recommend this? Can we change? No, that's not happening. It's not. This guy, Tony Khan, man, he wants to stay in the wrestling business, and he will. Obviously he also owns Ring of Honor. It looked like his goal for the longest time was to be a promoter for professional wrestling. And for what it's worth, the first 2-3 years of AEW, it worked. It was great. These past couple of years, on the other hand, have been absolutely awful. No sense of direction. No where, when, and how, or why. Nothing. We're not getting any of that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's ultimately jeopardizing AEW. There's so many people that I talk to that actually legitimately wants this company to go out of business. Not for the talent, because we all feel, we feel bad for the talent, but a buddy of mine that I talked to, he said, yeah, I kind of hope AEW close up doors. And it's not that he's a super fan of WWE, but his mindset was pretty much the same as my mindset. I want someone that's higher up above Tony Khan to shut them down. And then we see what Tony Khan does then, and the rest of that talent, because Tony Khan's going to scramble. Absolutely. Or, we'll send all the talent to Ring of Honor. It'd be really hard to do that considering it's behind a paywall on top of that. And there probably is a lot of wrestlers that currently work with AEW that really don't want to wrestle for Ring of Honor, to be honest with you. Can't say I necessarily blame them. So, we'll see what happens, man. I think at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that AEW needs to change. They genuinely do. And if they're not going to change, then, this is all we're going to get. And it's going to progressively get worse over time. It's just... And not only that, it's hard to believe at this point that AEW is the alternative, to be honest with you. It's tough, man. I mean, you look at, TNA, and TNA's doing great things too. So, we're going to see what happens, man. But, right now, the future doesn't really genuinely and truthfully look bright for AEW at this point. And obviously, that change is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take weeks, another year, maybe another year and a half, or 2 years, until we see consistent change with this company to make it for the better. And it's like, and again, this is not their first year. This company's been around now for about 5 years, so they kind of have, I would hope, at this point, they have a generalized idea of how to run this damn company, and they're just not doing it. But, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's really not. And hopefully, Tony Khan can get his shit together, and hopefully, once again, make this company worth watching, and make it more successful. And that's what I'm waiting for. And hopefully, AEW does something, because if not, man, I don't know how long AEW genuinely and truthfully is going to last as far as the future is concerned. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.